Namaskar. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties. Everything sorted out now. Professor RV is joining us. But before he joins us, we're going to talk about Sengol. This is available for shipping now. You can place your orders for India and the United States, and we'll be happy to deliver these for you as soon as we get the order, probably in a week or so. And in US, it is shipping already. We are caught up. We have more to sell. And Professor RV, Namaskaram, sir. Welcome to P Guru's channel. How are you?
Namaskaram, Namaste, Vanakkam, welcome.
So,
Yeah,
viewers, what you're seeing slowly moving in my backdrop is the Freedom Tower. That is a tower that was built in lieu of the World Trade Center. And you can see that there is a lift that takes you all the way to the top. And there is a circle there, viewing tower. And this is supposed to be taller than the previous one. Just wanted to tell everybody, if you are going to New York, we may want to go and visit this. It is to remember all the people who died on 9/11. And please like this video, because we are going to start with what is the latest situation. Trump has sent his envoy, his messenger, if you will, to talk to Putin with a certain proposal for ceasefire. And I'm just going to use 3 slides to explain that to you. Then I will yield the floor to Professor RV, who will take up step back and step forward as to how these things work and so on and so forth. Sir, with your permission, can I start the slide deck?
sure.
Here we go. So we all saw what happened in Iran in the last few weeks. Both US and Israel combined together to essentially take out all air defense systems in Iran, and Iran is now pretty much not able to do much, because anytime they do something, they'll not be able to defend themselves. That's where things stand. So does this mean that the Israel conflict with Iran is going to come to an end? Well, we don't know. I gave a morning, I put out one video about how they are also cutting off Syria as a possible place from where Iran can continue this stuff. They are also trying to make sure of that. Now, in the Ukraine conflict, he has a slightly shift in US policy, that is Donald Trump, and he has nominated Keith Kellogg, he's a former general, as a special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, signaling a shift in foreign policy. This one has a new proposal, peace through strength, and the plan proposes a ceasefire to freeze current front lines wherever you are, forcing both sides to the negotiating table. A demilitarized zone will be created that will probably be patrolled by UN or some other neutral party. The DMZ concept is not new. North Korea, South Korea have had a demilitarized zone, about 10, 20, 30 kilometers buffer or something like that, where neither side can come, and only the neutral party makes sure that no skirmishes happen. Now, this may require NATO or neutral forces to be there, and US military aid to Ukraine would be tied to its willingness to negotiate with Russia. Aid would shift from grants to loans. Grant means no payback needed, but loan means Ukraine will have to pay. And it also suggests suspending Ukraine's NATO aspiration in exchange for a comprehensive peace deal. So US is saying no NATO membership. Whereas today, if you see, Zelensky has said, I will stop the war today. I will even let all the land go as long as I get NATO membership. So they're getting close, Professor RV, in terms of where things stand. They are getting close. Zelensky says, I'll give up the land, claim to the land, as long as I have NATO, so I can prevent any more land from being given. And Trump is not very keen on having Zelensky or Ukraine be under NATO. I don't know what this reason is. Anyway, so somewhere people are getting on the same paper, may not be on the same page, but they are somewhere close. So that's what it looks like. So I'll yield the floor to you, sir. You have a big experience of a lot of these things come and go. Many ceasefires have come and gone, and talk to us a little bit about this conflict itself. Why did Russia do it? And where do you see personally, even after the ceasefire is done, skirmishes will continue? There will be always, I want this, you took this, that sort of stuff. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Iyer, for that. At the outset, I would say that Russia is never going to accept Ukraine being a member of the NATO. Very simple. It can't have a close neighbor who is a member. If you remember in 1963, this Russia wanted to keep some weapons in Cuba, or supposedly, allegedly, and Kennedy created such a huge problem, and it became a very big issue. Actually, you can't keep weapon next to our country, and those days actually there were not even nuclear weapons. Anyhow, finally Khrushchev, caved in or whatever, gave in, and there was no move. What I want to stress is US was so much concerned that some weapons might be in its neighborhood, which is being supported by Russia in those days. So today the situation is such that Russia is not going to accept some country which is next door, being a member of NATO. And the reason is, if it is a member of NATO, if anything happens to that, all members of NATO can come together, and then that's a understanding of NATO. Any one country attacked by any others, NATO will treat it as a attack on itself, the entire NATO force. Of course, Turkey is one of the members of NATO. That's not going to encourage any of this. Anyhow, Russia is not going to agree to that. That Trump also knows. That's so. The bottom line is, what is going to happen is, as is various condition, is going to be very difficult for Ukraine, because Russia has gone deep into their country, and other than Crimea, which was already annexed as late as 2014, and this Donetsk region, where also there is a significant amount of Russian occupation. I do not know how much of it will go back to the so-called quote unquote Ukraine. See, the Ukraine is something which we have to understand. Quite a large portion of Ukraine is Russian speaking, including Zelensky. Zelensky mother tongue is Russian. He cannot. He learned Ukraine much later, actually, for addressing another thing. He was a comedian in a TV serial who became very popular, and his party was named after that serial. He's much earlier what our MGR and Reagan did. Zelensky did it much later, but not in the films. It was only in the TV serial. TV serial, and the TV serial name itself was his party's name later. He became very. He was supposed to be fighting for corruption and all those things in the TV serial. He was also a sort of many a time referred to as a joker in the TV serial. Anyhow, so Ukraine has got a huge amount of Russian-speaking areas actually. So there is it's a mixture. Over a long period of thousands of years, there is a huge mixture in that part of Europe actually, between various communities and groups. For instance, the Orthodox Church in Ukraine, which is more or less banned by the Zelensky regime, is actually part of the Orthodox Church of Moscow. Many of you may be knowing about it. USSR, or currently what is called Russia, has got an Orthodox Church. It's not affiliated to the RC, but RC, Roman Catholic, is now having some amount of understanding with the Orthodox Church. They have Orthodox Church is much older than the many of the churches which are present in Europe, and they have their own way of worshipping, and they have the idol thing, and they use a significant amount of incense sticks and lamps. It's more similar to the Indian temples and other thing. The Orthodox Church thing, brass and other thing they use. Anyhow, that Ukraine church is a subset of the Russian church. In other words, the relationship between Ukraine and Russia is not something totally antagonistic from the beginning. What happened is, in 2014, between 2008 and 2015, there have been several type of revolutions in many countries, allegedly sponsored by Soros. Basically, they were called violet revolution, pink revolutions, rose revolution, another thing. Every country. And corruption was considered as one of the major issues. If you take corruption, inflation, and unemployment, these three, any country's government has to go. If you take only these three issues, for instance, corruption, unemployment, and inflation, any country government has to immediately go. Anyhow, so 2014, Yanukovych, he used to be president that time. They started what are known as Zero Maidan. One agitation started in the Maidan, in the area, main area of Ukraine's capital, Kiev, and so it became very popular. Every day people used to assemble and agitate another thing. So then there was a big furor, and his TV serials were getting very popular. He used the TV serial as one of the major weapons to popularize his ideas. So there was no ideas actually, basically opposing the government, attacking corruption. Yeah.
Sir, there is even Donald Trump had a serial called Apprentice for 7-8 years.
Correct.
It's only through that they came to know who Donald Trump was. So he has also taken the same route to becoming the president, sir. Just wanted to put that point out.
So this Zelensky, one interesting thing he did is he never relied on the main media at all. He was always using Instagram or Facebook, and in those days Twitter, with that small bird as the symbol. All these things only he was using actually. The mainline media in Ukraine that time is supposed to be controlled by the oligarchs, some few group of people who are having the hold on that. They were not giving adequate space to this fellow, Zelensky, that time. So he was using what are called quote unquote alternate media, but his thing was very popular, whatever said at that. Anyhow, this agitation got strengthened, and they wanted to have some relationship with EU. Very interesting actually. Finally, that Yanukovych was thrown out as a leader, as a parliament member, by 328 MPs out of 450 is the total number of MPs. For such a small country, number of MPs is significantly, so the per capita MPs is much higher than maybe in India or any other country. Anyhow, they all voted and threw him out actually. And by then, the Russia was getting worried because of this agitation and other thing, which was also having a aura of anti-Russian influences and other thing. Anyhow, and 2019, finally, an election took place. In that election, our friend Zelensky got elected. He got some 73% of the vote in 2019 election, and he became the president. And he embarked on his term has ended actually 2024, but he is not conducting an election because of the war and other things. So there is a stalemate actually, and he was very popular initially, but as all these leaders who come through this media or films and other things, and with the corruption and inflation, he was not able to do much about it, and his popularity fell very, very sharply. This is something very important to notice. And another thing is, he's a Jew. He's the first Jew to become president in Ukraine. In that part of the world, there have not been many Jews who are occupying important positions or posts or anything. That, of course, that Jew part of it is very much what one can call played down or something. And during the first presidency of Trump, he stopped actually something like 400 million military aid to Ukraine. One of the reason is that Hunter Biden, Biden's son, was supposed to be in an important position in Bursima, one of the gas
Energy.
agencies
Yeah.
in what is that called Ukraine, and that was supported by Zelensky that time, and Trump was not happy about the role of Hunter Biden in that deal, so he stopped actually something like 400 billion aid. This American aid, we should understand, it's not something which is 400 billion is given in cash or anything. That 400 billion will be given to the defense companies within US who will supply actually arms and ammunition to Ukraine, which should be used by Ukraine. So basically, that's a benefit to the US military companies, not to Ukraine. And in the process, actually, a large number of US generals were making cut money, which is also true on the Ukraine side. For instance, throughout the 70s, 60s, and 70s, Pakistan used to be supplied huge amount of arms and ammunitions by Americans. And the US Pentagon had more generals who were obliged to Pakistan because during that entire period, massive amount of cut money used to be given. It is told in US today, in Washington area, there are more star generals roaming around compared to the entire Second World War star generals of US. Again, let me repeat it. If you add all the star generals of US of Second World War, which is lesser than who are all now available in Washington. So that is the type of a growth of military complex within the US system. And they are very happy about countries like Ukraine or Pakistan or some, where there is not much of accountability and other thing. And there is a huge amount of corruption in which they have the major benefit. So actually, there are three components of US policy formulation. One is White House, another is this State Department, known as Foggy Bottoms, and the third is the Pentagon. And these three may not necessarily see eye to eye. There are some issues on which White House will like to go very slow. Or White House many a time is actually, for instance, about India, White House is normally positive about India throughout. There is a good segment, but not the State Department, and definitely not Pentagon, except the very recent couple of years where we are also having some good amount of defense relationship with US. Anyhow, the point is Zelensky was very unhappy that this 400 million was stopped by Trump and other thing. And so what should be done? So in 2022, a big amount of issue started against Zelensky because he seems to have traveled to Oman without adequate amount of what one can call information within the country. See, Ukraine itself is a small country. And Oman is another. Why did he go to Oman? What were the nature, reasons for that? He seems to have gone with his family, and there were a lot of, rumors, and it was not appreciated that he should not have. And unfortunately, there was a crash of one of the Ukrainian aircrafts, not the one in which he was traveling, in nearer to Oman. So he has to come back. So his political decision to travel to Oman and back in a secretive manner were not appreciated. Just like earlier, that president, what is his name? Earlier president,
Yanukovych.
Yeah, Yanukovych. He traveled to Maldives, and then he had his holiday in Maldives. And all these are, a lot of it is accusation, allegation, and these are all for money transfer, illicit wealth being mobilized, and all these things were coming up. Anyhow, but when he came back from Oman, and this USSR, he was making conditions to USSR. that they should do this, that, and Crimea by then USSR has occupied, or rather made it into a independent zone, and within Ukraine also there were pockets like Donetsk and other places which they have made it into Russian occupied territory. So, but he was very fiercely opposing this, to the extent in Tamil we call it as usipi udradhu, because which is usipi udradhu is something like instigating. He was Harvard Political Review called him as big names, and Time made him the man of the year in 1920-22, and then he was also called Winston Churchill of Ukraine. All sorts of things were told to him, and he got his ego boosted. It was told that he can stand against USSR. See, this NATO as well as EU, in a sense, are foolish. Long time before the Cold War has ended, Russia is not the USSR of what they were thinking. Russia is more for free, what one can call market economy, another thing. The only country which in today's context can be called communist is this North Korea, where that short fat fellow comes every 15 days, send a missile, and then everybody is upset about it, and then he goes back to his palace. That's the only country which can be. No other. China is not a communist country, even though other people may talk so much. It's ruled by a communist, that's all. But so many private enterprises are flourishing. Anyhow, they are still, NATO and EU are still in the Cold War era. Trump is not so much in that era, actually. We will come to that. So, they want to contain Russia, which is the most foolish thing to think of today. If at all, they can align with Russia, actually, in the context of global issues pertaining to Islam. That's another. The terrorist activity within Russia were all perpetrated by the Islamic revolutionaries, actually. If you remember, Beslan, one school, 105, 106 kids were kidnapped and then killed, actually. Then there was another one which in a theater or within a musical program in Moscow. All of that. They have much more problem pertaining to this because of Chechnya and various other associated link. Anyhow, NATO is still the old mindset. They want to contain. So they thought, why don't we use Ukraine to push more towards, what do you call, instigating it for. So Russia was not happy at all about it, actually. By then, Ukraine has also applied for membership and becoming membership of EU as well as NATO. And by then there was another development in terms of Britain leaving EU. Brexit, you might have heard about it. And today position is Germany, the leading opposition group in Germany, alternate for Deutschland. They say if they come to power, they will leave EU. So the European project is crumbling. The only country which will be left in EU will be France. That is the one originally which was propagating. All others are. Romania, for instance, is elected leader who is not enthusiastic about EU. Austria again. So these people are all called the far right, but they are their country's nationalist. So North Atlantic Treaty Organization is something which is anachronistic in today's context. Anyhow, they thought that they will try to give pinpricks to Russia. But unfortunately, what happened is that initial skirmishes between Ukraine and Russia developed into a full-fledged war. Post 22-23 and last 2 years, it is continuing. And Zelensky is being provided with arms and ammunition, and he goes around the world, and allegations are He has accumulated huge amount of wealth all over the world, and he has sacked his own army chief and others, accusing them of corruption. And Parliament has not met for quite some time, and there is a stalemate within Ukraine. And this is the type of a thing. And he is now agreeing that he will not mind giving territories to Russia, and he wants peace. And in between, there was a, these European governments make all fool of themselves. They had a huge conference of 100 countries wanting to peace in the Ukraine-Russia war without Russia being represented there. Can you beat this? This is like conducting a marriage without the groom. And this is, you know, and they all felt that, we are not going anywhere. Obviously, see, when you want to have peace between Ukraine and Russia, and if you ask me bluntly, today only one country can bring about peace between Ukraine and Russia, that is India. He is the, whether we like it or not, Modi has got a very good relationship with both Putin as well as with Zelensky. This is something very interesting. Actually, Modi has got this magic, I think. He has a good relationship with Israel leader as well as Iranian leader. So through Iranian leaders, he can influence this Hezbollah and other groups, and Israel leaders he can influence directly. So this is something which, and whether it is purely luck or whatever you call it, he has got that thing. Maybe his hug is, I think, very powerful. He hugs people. So he is one of the, he is like that Mata Amritanandamayi, who is also hugging people, hug mama. She is called hug mother, and she is so popular. And her hug seems to give a lot of peace, and maybe Modi's hug also. God knows. Anyhow, he can bring real peace between the two groups. And Trump is another no-nonsense man. That is something which is irritating to most of the world leaders. He is one of the few, I would say, who thinks, who talks and who acts in the straight line. It's very, very few. Most of the others are triangular. Think in one and talk in another and then act in another. But he is not triangular. He is straight line, very simple. He is and he doesn't mince words. He means what he says. He said 25% I will what one can call impose on Canada. Immediately, this Trudeau has ran to his house. Not even he has yet to become president and occupy White House, and that is another issue. Now, this Biden is trying to give what one can call interesting twist to the big kick before he goes. He has allowed now Ukraine to use long-term missiles against Russia, which he was not initially allowing. And this NATO has got one stupidest fellow as chief now, who is still in 1940s. He still is talking in terms of evils of communism, evils of Russia, and all these things. And the gap between, according to me personally, the gap between the election of US president and his swearing in, I think is too long. November 5th it was announced. He is more or less through, say November 6th. And now he is going to take over in January end. You see, in those days, from California, people have to come in horse carriages to Washington. That used to take something like 2 weeks, 1 week from Colorado. Massive amount of time. But today you have something like speed aeroplanes. I think the gap should not be more than 2 weeks, if you ask me. Because what is happening is, during the gap, the incumbent who is not coming back, as in the case of Biden, could take two actions, another thing which can be damaging to the new one. It will take lot of time for him to undo some of these things. And even in terms of nomination of judges and so many, I think they should seriously think in terms of, not that they are going to watch Pigurus, but I am sure Iyer can have a separate session on this using some US experts, why the gap should be reduced, since it is not a horse-drawn carriages going across states from one state to another to reach Washington and then clap for the president and other thing. Anyhow, so now the instigation of Zelensky is continuing, but many countries are now finding it very difficult to sustain this fellow, because he is every day is asking for weapons, he is asking for, and there are reports suggesting the desertions are taking place in his own frontline army. Many youngsters are leaving, and now he is being told by his NATO members that 18 years also you take. Normally they take around 21, 22 years. Now 18 years old also you take into the, so the conscription has become a very major issue in Ukraine. So Ukraine is not winning. Everybody knows about it. So you have to pump in more and more. And beyond a point, I think the NATO is also finding it very difficult. And one section of NATO, mad section, they want to give nuclear arms to Ukraine. I think there are some mad caps everywhere around the world. Actually, giving nuclear arms to Ukraine is like giving a child the big automatic machine gun or something. And enthusiasm of Zelensky is not. So how this will end is very simple. Most probably, this is my forecast, Zelensky will leave Ukraine. He will go somewhere else. He has got huge amount of wealth, and maybe Oman again or Mauritius, what you call Maldives, or settle down there. It's not very easy for him to continue. Already his popularity rating is 22 or 21%, whatever. This some of these what one can call rating, grading, and other thing is highly, not able to appreciate or not able to agree, because suddenly somebody will say Ukrainians are the most happy people. There was one happiness index which recently came out, I think last month, where Palestine was put higher than India. Palestine, Afghanistan, and Pakistan were all higher. Every day, if you get bombed, are you more happy than living in India? I do not know about it. Maybe we can demand that we should be bombed regularly to be classified as happy. Why I am telling you, some of these index and some of these indices are all highly suspicious. Anyhow, Ukrainians are not fully wanting to continue the war, is the message which we are getting. And there is also enough amount of consternation in some of the EU countries. Why should we go on funding? Even in US, some people are questioning, when you are not giving adequate amount of funds to North Carolina or any of these places which are affected by natural calamities, why are you giving so much amount of funds to Ukraine, where it is not being used or not required? So there is a section in US which also feels that this type of global reach in terms of continuously providing funds is not a beneficial thing to them. So that is one part of the story. So the only way it can end is, as it was suggested, a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, has to be created between Russia and Ukraine, where that zone cannot be crossed by anybody other than the neutral observers. That is one thing. Second is the over-enthusiastic NATO, I think, may be dismantled, according to me. It has lost its purpose. And opposing Russia cannot be a single point agenda or single point program. See, already US has got 140 countries. It has got its military bases. In many places, they are asking it to fold. We know the European countries are feeling the pinch. For instance, Niger has asked France to fold and go. Chad has asked. Chad is a country. Chad is not that that
Piece of
Bush
wood.
period. There was a
Mm.
no Bush period. There was the
Hanging
scouting.
Chad. Hanging Chad.
Hanging Chad. That is not Chad. Is actually a country in Africa. They have asked France to fold and go, and followed by that a couple of others. So the France, of course, this Macron, he still thinks that he is having a huge amount of clout. He goes on advising everybody. Macron has become like a retired school teacher, fused bulb, as I call it, who still think that whose words are very important and respected. Within his own country, his party became third, not even second, when there was election. And after 25, is gone. He's not going to be there. Definitely, he knows about it. And many of these leaders are strutting around the globe, like our German chancellor. He is also not going to be there. His popularity rating is, I think, so low. They have stopped computing it. There no need to worry about it. Another thing. So, but they still think that that Strammer of UK. UK is already a gone case. Actually, I call it our own UK, for the simple reason sooner or later they are going to come to India, request us, please run our country. That's the type of they are not able to. So we have to float a West India company or something like that, and then try to run part of UK at least. Because UK, many parts of UK are gone actually, separate. And places like Bradford, Birmingham, and other thing, there is no difference with Pakistan or Afghanistan. The same type of a thing. Once, if I remember, this one of the earlier prime ministers of UK mentioned about having large amount of mailboxes only going around. All these burqa-clad women, he called as mailboxes, and because there is only one small slit open and everything else is covered, and he was criticized for it actually. And anyhow, UK is gone. Germany waiting to go, and Italy is already having a leader who is supposed to be right extremist. God knows. So the only country which will have the same current leader in 25 is Italy. No other country. All the G7 countries are going to have a change, including Japan. So EU is in crisis. And actually, if you ask me, EU is a useless thing. The only thing what was done by Brussels, that, believe me, they told the cucumber should have a similar type of a shape and orientation all over Europe. That was one of the major recommendations by the Belgium, what do you call this, Brussels-based, nothing more. They couldn't have a common currency agreed upon. Sorry, common taxation agreed upon. One of the EU professor told, sir, you people are much better. You could introduce GST much faster and run it with all the deficiencies. India is very similar to EU in terms of its size and languages and states and other things. You couldn't do it. The only final thing was the cucumber size, which was opposed to tooth and nail in UK. That was one of the reason, as somebody suggested, Brexit got formed because of this. So both NATO and EU are redundant organization. If you ask me, it's not required for it to survive. Already, Hungary is leading one of the what one can call patriots of Europe. It's not agreeing to many of the suggestions by other EU countries and other things. They are all on the run, actually. There's what you may loosely call the leftist and the wokist and social democrat in EU do-gooders. They are all on the run, and everywhere there is a rise of rightists who are called extreme rightists. There are leftists can be surviving, but rightists are not there. All rightists are extreme rightists. So there is a very interesting type of a situation developing, if you ask me, in Europe. So Trump is very realistic, as I told you. He's not a idealistic man or something. If you ask him to write his philosophy, it can be done in one paragraph or something less than that. That's all. He's a man of action. He's not going to, and of course, in the middle, I should also tell, he's not going to hurt Indian interest at all, in spite of all the noises made here. He's going to do that. Yeah, I don't know whether people want him to do that, whether telling him that he is going to do that. Even in US, many people are accusing him of going to do things which he is not going to do. So he is not going to encourage Ukraine attacking this US another thing. Sorry, USSR another thing. He's not going to encourage in any way. So he is going to bring an end to war. He has made it very clear. Even during his first term, he never started a war. People are not appreciating it. And if you look back history of last 40 years, every US president during his term has started a war and encouraged it. Like this Iraq, they told Iraq has got weapons of mass destruction and other things. So much Economist, New York Times, Washington Post, Financial Times, everybody wrote hundreds of articles on that. And Iraq was invaded to stop this. They couldn't find one hydrochloric acid bottle. Forget about weapons of mass destruction and other thing. So, but during the entire 5 years of Trump, 4 years of Trump, he never ever occupied any country. So he was more in terms of, wanting peace. That he has made it very clear. I'm sure he is going to not encourage any war between Israel and others. Already some temporary truce is there, at least with Hezbollah. He's not going to damage that. And I am very confident this Russia-Ukraine, he will tell Ukraine, you see, once the oxygen supply is stopped for Ukraine, which is primarily the armaments and money, it doesn't have any other way to continue its warmongering to Russia. The day it is stopped, and Zelensky himself openly says, and Trump is not going to encourage NATO membership for this Ukraine, nor EU membership for this Ukraine. So it is Trump will quietly dismantle NATO. Given half a chance, he may dismantle UN also. UN is a totally useless organization. If you ask me, it's a big talking shop during the day. Everybody talks heroically. Pakistan talks about Kashmir and Palestinian talk about everybody is. And in the evening, it's a huge pub in New York, free pub, where people all have their pubbery. And then next day again, big talk take place. And associated with that UN is that ICC, which is another. Let's not confuse between ICJ and ICC. ICC is that Pakistani origin person from England who is the prosecutor. He is left and right telling he is this what one can call Bibi of Israel is a criminal, and Russian President Putin. Israel or Russia, including India, we are not members of that ICC. Let's be very clear. But he says it doesn't matter. Even if you are not members, we will pass judgments on you and others should. This is a very funny type of a situation. It's like our Supreme Court telling some African country dictator is to be arrested. Who is going to Anyhow, so I think he will dismantle that also. WHO is extremely unhappy. Kennedy, having been put in that position of monitoring all this health related thing, he may come out of that also. So he is not very comfortable with many of these international organization. He feels huge amount of American money is only given there, and they do all anti-American activities according to him. So anyhow, Ukraine is not going to encourage in terms of giving any extra funds. In that context, what is going to happen is DMZ will be created. Ukraine portion will be there. It will continue with or without Zelensky, and Russian occupied portions, they have to decide over a period of time how much to keep, how much to give back. That is the Russian occupied portion are all mostly Russian speaking. So this is what is a very interesting type of a thing. What does what you call, what is the net impact of the Ukraine war is Ukraine lost. That's all. Ukraine started, and Ukraine lost its territories. That's not going to be a very happy type of a thing. So this is something which so first Jewish head of Ukraine is not going to be successful, and his mother tongue is Russian. Let me again very important stress that point. And anyhow, some of the TV actors can also flourish. That is the net result. So people in Tamil Nadu are telling about film actors entering into politics. It is become a, I think, a common thing, right? Very. So it's not a very. So of course, I only hope somebody from Tamil Nadu doesn't say that Zelensky imitated our MGR or our, like Stalin told that Stalin or one of his cronies told that this during the election, some of the freebies offered in UK, it's are all copied from the local our manifesto. The UK told gave some uh, NHS some extra funds and various type of freebies. They told they copied coolly from our manifesto only. So like that, they shouldn't say that. Already when Reagan came, they told that Reagan was imitating MGR, and it appears Reagan took away all the manifestos and all the film reels of MGR and saw it again and again and how to influence people. So this the social media has become a powerful tool now, and everybody is using it to their advantage. So Ukraine is one example, and our friend Ayer nicely told that Trump also has got his own what one can call history regarding this usage of this TV channel and other thing. Anyhow, so maybe in the future, election may be conducted through net only. So it will be very useful that time in order to have a comparison. So one thing is sure, couple of things we should stress is the gap between the election announcement of the US president and the actual swearing in should be reduced. I do not know how to bring about it. One can perhaps pass it on to Vivek Ramaswamy, who is doing a lot of this uh, what one can call changes, reforms in terms of the government thing. And the reason is somebody like Biden, who is brain dead. I can tell it, but not Rahul Gandhi. He made a very passionate speech of Biden being brain dead, and Modi is also like that. That's fine. Modi, you can tell anything, but not Biden. As a leader of opposition, I think our foreign ministry has strongly condemned it, and also they told they don't share that view of Rahul Gandhi. Anyhow, somebody like Biden can be instigated to do the what do you call a strong strike toward the end, like overnight batsman.
one missile launched from Ukraine lands in India by mistake.
That is quite possible. But I was mentioning about it actually, Iraq war time, whether some missile will go to India. My colleague at Atlanta told that American professor, Nathan, don't worry, because all those people punching in the computer in Pentagon are all Indians only. So they are not going to harm your own country.
This is my grandma's house. No, 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 we are not going there.
Don't go there. Another thing. He had a good sense of humor. Actually, his wife had a more. Once we were going through the what you call that beltway in the car, and many of the in the evening. It was a Friday late evening. Many of the buildings had some lights on. So she told Indians are working there like that. I asked why. He said, which other sane person will be there in the office on a Friday late evening? They will all be in. The Indians are not familiar with any ing. Ing, she used to say. The swimming and skiing and games. So, anyhow, so this. But I only hope that he doesn't have any. Biden doesn't do anything major damage before he leaves. Under the, under the advice of all his, what one can call, what are called the deep state, right? That's a popular name nowadays given. He shouldn't, do anything severe damage,
Sir,
because that would take a lot of time for Trump to rectify.
sir, every year in United States, we accrue 2 weeks of paid vacation. 2 weeks, 10 days, paid time off. It's called. So you 10 days, and then because you can put weekends around it, you get 16 days. Biden has worked for 4 years. 4 times 10. Right? You see where I'm
40.
going with it, right? He can claim vacation,
Yeah.
get paid.
I hope he does it. But already, of course, signals are given as if Trump has already taken over, because Trudeau need not go to Trump's house to meet him. He should, that means that he is taken seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
But Trudeau is an idiot. He may not know the difference between Trump House and White House. He may be taken to a wrong place. That's also possible. I only hope he doesn't come back to power.
Thank you so much, Professor RV. And we have a few questions for you. By the way, that phone call that rang, you know who that was, right? That is Board of Control for Cricket in India. They are trying to put Muhammad Shami on a plane. They are keeping a seat for you also. They want to know if you can come so that you can also bowl some fast balls. West India Company.
That's a very good thing. Very good idea, actually. And I think this Pakistan Control Board, why are they acting, because the government of India has categorically told that you cannot travel to Pakistan. So beyond that, nothing can be done by BCCI, because BCCI simply won't get method of going into Pakistan with this ban. So they should, PCB should understand this elementary thing and try to do something alternative. I think the only way they can come out of it is to accept for that hybrid form. Something in their country, something out of their country, another. Anyhow, it's all right.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, let's take a few questions. Let's go with the questions, please. Magnet Ranga wants to know, Namaskaram, is Zelensky in control with the whole issue, or he's just acting on the strings being manipulated?
Yeah, he's not control of the whole issue, because of the way in which he has to sack his own defense chief and other thing, and then he has to formulate. And recently, his parliament is supposed to be meeting. He cancelled that meet also, because he is worried perhaps that there could be a lot of voices asking him to answer many questions and other things. He is being manipulated.
Next one, please. Sri sir, I just wanted to ask about Trump's immigration for Indians regarding H-1B, green cards, etc. I'm an engineering student, undergrad at Oregon State, and wanted.
Why Indians are unnecessarily worried, I don't understand at all. He is only talking about illegal immigrants. I'm sure there is some article today I was reading, 400,000 undocumented students are studying in US. I can't believe this. 400,000
That sounds a little high.
undocumented. That seems to be very and also student. Undocumented people may be working in grape picking or all these things, or making beds in hospitals and various other things, but not students. And anyhow, I'm very sure very, very few Indian students will be undocumented. They would have gone there with all these hassles of TOEFL and GRE and all that thing. So I think H-1B people or green card people, I don't think there is any problem for them at all. It's a scare, unnecessarily created, actually. He is more worried about the trainload of people coming from the southern part of the country. Venezuela, Honduras, lot of these, pronunciation difficult countries also. Many people are what caravans are coming. I think you may be seeing in the pictures and other things. Huge. In the train load of people are coming. They are all coming thinking that before Trump takes over, better to enter, and as if nothing will happen after that. I don't think you should have any worries, sir. Just relax.
Next one, please. NN says, breaking news, Professor RV replaces Mohammed coming for Australia test.
not possible. Okay.
Rajiv Pandarathil.
I am the student in medical science from Liv. You are absolutely right. Best wishes. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, very much. In ceasefire, or will it be Trump driven? That we have to wait and see. It's quite possible that Trump may like to give some what one can call advantage to Modi also. He may bring Modi into the picture. Let's see how it shapes up. That much more important is, much more important is how Trump and Tulsi is going to deal with this Bangladesh problem. That is what is more worrying for me compared to Ukraine. Let's wait and see.
Thank you once again, sir. We'll be seeing Professor Arvi very soon again. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.